Hello Fest. Do we get tired? Okay. And so there's times that you're like, you walk in that door, and I remember, just like you got to kind of leave everything behind you, right? You try, and you're in front of a classroom of 31 and a half kids, and you're on, right? Or you're in the counseling office, and kids are crumbling and falling apart. And we're in a world where we talk a whole lot, we hear a lot at least about mental health, and I think there's not enough focus on you guys, because we come in every day, and it's hard. Dude, it's hard, because you bring all of that stuff with you whether you like it or not, okay? That's just kind of how it rolls. And one of my kind of takes with when it comes to being an educator, okay, and as a SAC counselor, I always I clump counselors in, I clump everybody in as an educator. You wear like a gazillion hats, correct? I mean, it's not only are you instructing people, you're trying to inspire people. There's times you're like a surrogate parent, you're a coach, you're a caregiver, you're like juggling 50,000 things at once. You get tired? Do you get tired? Okay. And it's like, and I love when I try to I hear where it's like, well, teachers, they get the summer off. And I'm like, no, internal deep breathing exercises. It's a hard job. And I always like to say, dude, you try to fill the shoes that teachers and educators do. God bless you, right? You know, the hats you wear, it's crazy inspiration, and you're going, and you're going, and you're going. And on top of that, along with us walking into our buildings every day, our kids are walking into our buildings every day, and so many of them are tired. And so many of them have so much heaviness. And my intention of today's presentation is not about being like, heavy cloud over our heads, but the reality of what life is. And how when we are not in a good place as educators, it's virtually impossible for us to be able to provide the level of education, air quotes, and care, and being able to really see our kids when we're not in a good spot. It's very easy to just correct right now. Like, you're like, it's just so, I'm going to use the word toxic. There's so much yuck. I do believe there's so much beauty. I believe there's so much beauty, and one of the things I have been in awe of is there are a lot of bad people in the world. There's more good. There are more that are willing to take risks and to spread mitzvah than you can possibly imagine. And that's been one of my missions with blogging and with podcasting, allowing people to be heard, allowing light to be shed that somebody else from whatever area of the world can connect with and say, I'm not alone. Or holy cow, that person has been through some craziness and they made it through, and so can I. Networking. You know, just like Fraser was talking about, networking, and finding the positives with social media. Okay, turning positives. There's a lot of negatives. We can make it into positives. It's us when we kind of break at the end of the day, continuing to stay in contact, encouraging one another, networking and learning from each other. When we remain islands and we rely just on ourselves, it's very dangerous. Because then you're detached from really knowing what's really going on. You get lonely. You get overwhelmed. You end up spending energy. You just don't need, want. So maybe you have somebody at home that's struggling with an addiction. All right? You go home every day, you don't know who's going to be there. Some of you guys have faced getting the heck beaten out of you over the years, or you're struggling with an addiction, or you're dealing with anxiety and it's hard to roll out of bed in the morning. I don't want to go to school, and what are people going to think? And my heart rate's going at 1,000 miles an hour. Every single one of us is a book. Every single one of us has chapters going on. And the problem is, sometimes we're like, dude, we don't want to deal with our crap, because we feel like we're by ourselves. My dad was out drinking last night. I don't know what time he's coming home. My brother's in rehab again. I'm struggling with cutting. And all these things that you're like, oh my God, this is super depressing. This is life sometimes. And the difference when it comes to these different things we go through in life is whether we deal with them or not. And some of us try to do this. We put our hands over our eyes. If I walk around with my hands over my eyes, what happens? I super can't see. What else? I trip, I bump into things, but it's the same thing with the stuff that you have going on right now. And some of you guys are going to have choices where it's like, I don't want to have to deal with my crap. Because who wants to deal with their crap? But when we don't deal with our crap, crappy things happen. All right, it's kind of like I kind of use this analogy. Any of you guys ever made pasta? You ever boiled water? Come on, man, please let me have something, right? Okay. You put the pot on the stove, right? You crank that sucker up to high. You put the top on it. You walk away. You come back 20 minutes later, and what's going on? It's boiling right now. You take the top off. What happens? You're like, oh my God, right? So the steam comes up, the hot water splurts, and you're like, what does that have to do with anything? Totally has to do with us. That when we keep things inside, we don't deal with things. What happens is it comes up in different ways. All right, and it ends up at some point where, I ask students I work with where I'm like, dude, how much weed are you smoking? How much are you drinking? How much, how many hours a day are you sleeping? And it's like, well, why are you asking me these questions? Because every single one of us in this room, including adults, that if we don't deal with our crap and we feel crappy on like every day, we do things to feel uncrappy. So if any of you guys are struggling with these things, God, it's hard for me to get out of bed. Dude, I'm struggling with cutting. I'm struggling where of course there's a bong under your bed, and you're lighting up every night because I can't deal and I'm trying to numb myself. And it doesn't mean we're bad people at all. It just means we're hurting. And this is where life comes in. And this is where I want to throw it to you guys, is that life is a journey and life can be crazy trained. But what we do in our decisions, you guys, as you have prom coming up and graduation, dude, your decisions are so important, it's insane. And your voice is so important.